When you're looking for the best location to buy a rental property, the first data point you need to consider is if the state laws favor landlords or tenants. The worst mistake you can make is buying an investment property in a tenant-friendly state, because you'll have rent increase caps, maintenance mandates, and worst of all, squatters will have more rights than you as the owner. So save yourself the torture and pick a landlord-friendly state. I've done all the work for you and will break down each of the data points I used and then show you the results for every state. And it truly was a data-driven process from start to finish. So how exactly did I calculate the rental and legislative scores? I used two main factors to rank all 50 states based on the rental market conditions and landlord friendliness. And the two main things that I took into consideration to numerically score are the rental market factors and legislative factors for each specific state. In terms of what the rental market factors actually look like that I took into consideration, I started with crime rate, because obviously high crime rates can increase insurance costs and tenant turnover, and you're ultimately not going to get the best tenants to live in those areas. I then looked at unemployment rate, because obviously higher unemployment means that your house is not going to be rented out. If median rent prices were too high, above the national average, then it can lead to vacancies and you not getting paid. And if the cost of living is too high, same thing. If the rental market is leading to cost of living increase and the tenants can't afford to pay, then that's going to have a massive impact and a detriment to your actual cash flow. I then looked at market vacancy. Do people actually want to live there? I looked at infrastructure and economic growth. Are there commercial buildings being built? Are Starbucks being added? Are there commercial and residential units in the same area or not? And then finally, insurance costs, because the higher the premiums go, the more materials cost in the area and the more expensive it is to develop. You're going to lose money when things have to go wrong and when things need to be fixed. The second key factor is the legislative factors. And honestly, these might even be more important. It's really easy to look at the numbers at a high level, but the legislative factors you really need to dig into. And first and foremost is the eviction laws. Are they strict to evict tenants? Do you have to wait 90 days? Do the squatters have more rights than you do as the owner? And next is security deposit limits. Some states limit how much you can hold and also what you have to give back at the end, regardless of if things are pretty bad based on what the tenant did inside. Then we looked at rent control and rent caps. So you want to be able to increase your rent at the same rate as your operating expenses are increasing. If they're capped out and you're not able to keep up with the time, you're going to lose money and not cash flow as much as you did originally. And lastly, the property tax rate, because high property taxes can lead to you losing more money. And if they're able to double or triple property taxes in 10 years, but you can't raise rent at that same rate, you're again not going to cash flow. You could even be underwater. Then we looked at tenant rights protections. So strict tenant protection can mean it's harder for you to get rid of them. It can be hard for you to even run background checks, and you could not really even have a choice in which type of tenants move into your property. We also need entry into our homes. There are homes the tenant is renting from us at the end of the day, and the landlord entry laws need to be in our favor. Also wanted to look at short-term rental regulations, because although we target long-term and turnkey rental properties or just minor cosmetic fix-ups, it is important to know the short-term rental regulations, because it can tell you which direction any specific state is going in terms of legislation as rentals overall. And finally, tenant screening. We want to be able to run background checks, use credit score to make decisions, and ultimately just know exactly who we're putting into our house before we go ahead and put them in. And so all of these scorings and all of these factors were brought into a numerical calculation. And when we output the data that came from it, you see this beautiful curve here from very landlord-friendly states through the neutral states and then often into the most restrictive states, which you should never invest in. If you have an investment property already in one of these most restrictive states, you should either 1031 exchange out of it, or if you really do have that many problems that you've been through already, or if you really do have that much equity that you can just sell it and then go ahead and purchase an out-of-state investment property or a few multifamilies out of state, that's probably your best bet. And so we can tell that the data and the calculation worked out perfectly by the disparity from the start to the finish and the worst to the best numbers. The standard deviation is very tight. There's not much deviation in the numbers. As you can see, things are calculated over a 1 or 2 span jump in between. And looking at 15 different scores, then scoring them and calculating them out into a friendliness scale, this is a very nice curve of what one should look like. And so the top 5 most restrictive markets were California, Oregon, Hawaii, Washington, and New York. So again, if you've thought about or you do currently invest in any of these states, if nothing's happened to you yet, you're very lucky. The laws are against you, the tenants have more rights than you do, and you should highly consider moving your property somewhere else. The 5 most friendly landlord states are West Virginia, Alabama, Arkansas, Wyoming, and Florida. And so if you're looking for an out-of-state place to invest, whether it's a multifamily, whether it's a student rental, or whether it's just for young professionals that are looking to rent in the area, you should target one of these 5 areas. Not only are they landlord-friendly, but you can definitely find some very well-priced homes and well-priced multifamily properties as well. So if you're looking for an investment property and you need help, start here.